Are you looking for a luxury cruise experience in Alaska? Today, we're diving into something our viewers always ask about: suite size and onboard value when it comes to two of the world's leading luxury cruise lines, Silversea and Regent Seven Seas Cruises. Welcome to RTE Travel Talk, Ask a Real Travel Expert, the show that talks to travel professionals around the world. Joining me today to compare these two luxury Alaska cruise lines is Larry Jackson of Cruise Holidays of Viera. If you enjoy the journey with us today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if this video has got you inspired, drop a comment or give a thumbs up and join the conversation. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for being part of our travel community, whether you're a longtime fan or just dropping by. We really appreciate it. And now, on with the show. Hi, Larry. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Hi, Ken. It's great to be back with you.
Great to have you with us, Larry. Today, Larry, I thought we'd dive into something that our viewers and listeners are kind of interested in with regard to the luxury ships that are out there, in particular Silversea and Regent Seven Seas. And I thought you and I could take a look at just what you get in some of their bigger suites. Are they always better? And when it gets right down to it, how do these two great lines actually compare?
Yeah, Ken, we've been getting a lot of inquiries about cruising in Alaska this coming year. And a lot of people have been inquiring about Silversea and then about Regent Seven Seas.
Right.
So I thought it might be useful to take a look at the two of the sailings or two ships that and almost identical in Alaska, because it gives us a good comparison of the two cruise lines. Now, these comparisons are not going to be identical for all the cruises, but at least it gives us apples and apples to compare.
No, it's a great overview. So where do we start?
Well, we're going to look at two cruises. One, August 12th on Regent Seven Seas, the Explorer from Vancouver, and compare that to Silversea's Silver Moon, which is August 13th, Vancouver to Seward. Both are 7-day cruises in Alaska. So I thought this would be a great way to compare the two cruise lines.
I gather Regent Explorer is a little bit larger than the Silver Moon?
You know, Ken, as we go through this comparison, what amazed me is how little difference there is between the two cruise lines. We're talking about very small degrees of separation. And you bring up a good point. The two ships, Regent Seven Seas Explorer, passenger capacity is 750. It was launched in 2016. The Silversea Silver Moon capacity is 596 passengers. So roughly 150 difference, and it was launched in 2021. So not a big difference there.
Right on, right on. I guess really when it gets right down to it, if you're looking at the two of these particular ships, it's going to come down to the size of the stateroom, and that's important to a lot of people, Larry. So let's take a look at what you would get on Silversea as compared to what you get on Regent's Explorer.
What we're going to do is compare a superior veranda on the Silver Moon with the Serenity Suite on the Regent Seven Seas.
Okay.
Again, it's pretty amazing how close they are, but this is also a good point of how big the cabins are compared to the other cruise lines. On Silver Moon, we're looking at a 387 square foot cabin with a 64 square foot balcony. For the Regent Seven Seas, we're looking at 400 square feet, but 99 of that is with the balcony. So the cabins are almost identical in size with just a slightly larger balcony for the Regent Seven Seas.
But geez, Larry, either way, when you look at that, those rooms are huge as compared to some of the contemporary lines that are sailing there.
Yeah, it's amazing, Ken. I mean, you've got a walk-in closet. You've got in Silverseas, you've got a bathtub and a rain shower and a 99 square foot balcony on Regent Seven Seas. That's gigantic, but it just is so much more. It's hard to, when we throw out numbers, it's hard to gauge what we're talking about, but the comfort level is so much better on these larger cabins. When you walk past the bed and two people are passing, they don't have to turn and wait for the other one to go past, so that's, so.
It's kind of the little things. Now, 64 square feet and 99 square feet on the actual balcony size. Both of those are large balconies. When we think about Alaska, Larry, is it important to have that?
A couple times, a few times on the cruise, I think it is. One is, as you know, Ken, we go into the fjords of the glaciers. As we cruise into the fjords, you can it gets very still, and usually the weather's not that bad, and you can sit out on the balcony and enjoy and you can see it from both sides of the ship because the walls of the fjord that the glacier created are on both sides. Then when you get to the glacier, the captain does slow 360 degrees, so everybody gets a good view of the face of the glacier. And by the way, I think Hubbard Glacier is one of the best glaciers to really get up close and personal to the cabbing that goes on there.
And you're right. When you're thinking about doing Alaska, you want a ship or ships that give you a really good experience in Alaska. And these smaller ships, whether it's Regent Seven Seas or Silversea, are going to do that.
Yeah, you get really up close and personal to Alaska. And the same happens at the ports of call, the embarkation, disembarkation. To get 600 people on and off a ship versus 6,000 is a big difference as far as what your day is going to be like. Ken, a couple other comparisons on the balcony, on the cabin while we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Silversea has a queen bed where Regent Seven Seas has a king bed. However, the king bed cannot be separated or converted into two twins on Regent, where it can on Silversea. Both cruise lines feature a sofa bed, so if you had two singles in a room with a king bed on Regent, you'd still be able to accommodate them. And for the bath, the Silversea Silver Moon features a tub, a jacuzzi tub, and a shower. Regent Seven Seas is only a shower. Further comparisons, Silversea's amenities, toiletries are Bulgari, where Regent Seven Seas are Lakatani. So I thought that was interesting.
But as you say, like that's actually something that comes up a lot when we do reviews is people always want to know about the bath and the shower,
right?
And in some cases the amenities. And both of those lines are offering high-end amenities in the bathroom.
Yeah. When we talk about the cabin, just a couple of other small details. Silversea stocks a bar in your cabin based upon your selection that you tell the butler, and they stock your mini fridge. Regent Seven Seas only stocks the mini fridge. So that's just, again, another slight comparison between the two. So we're talking very, very close.
In terms of both of these suites, they're both offering butler service, right?
That is correct. Yeah, both will have butler. Again, that's something that most people say, well, I don't need a butler. I've never had a butler. But you'd be surprised when I come back from a cruise. I say, how was the butler? And they go, wow, that was great. The butler really, as far as reservations or anything you really need, it takes just one less level of stress out of the cruise.
No, exactly. What about the itineraries? Are the itineraries roughly the same, Larry?
That is amazing also, Ken. When we look at the two itineraries, that the common ports that they both go to are Skagway, Juneau, and then the differences are, and this is a recent change. And again, we're talking about August of 2026. All of this is subject to change. So whenever you're watching this broadcast, please be aware. But the difference is Silversea will go to Ketchikan. Silversea is going to Valdez.
Right.
And Regent Seven Seas is going to Icy Strait. Both have their pluses and minuses as far as ports are concerned. And again, that's where an experienced travel advisor can come in and help you.
Exactly.
But they're so close coming out of Vancouver, that shouldn't be really a consideration for determining between the two. With our new pricing that Silversea just announced this year, I guess one of the big differences between these two cruise lines are the excursions. So what's happening with Silversea is they're giving you, with their all-inclusive plus pricing that we have going on right now, which is the one I recommend because it has a fully refundable deposit. They're giving you a $400 per person shipboard credit to be used for excursions. Regent Seven Seas is including all of the excursions based upon availability, which is also a problem because these excursions book up very quickly. So if you don't get in there right in the first go around, you might not get the excursion you want. Whereas with Silversea, you'll have that onboard credit. But then if you don't get the excursion you want, you can always book it with an outside vendor. And with Regent Seven Seas, you don't want to do that because the excursions are included in the price.
No, exactly. So the main difference between those two when it comes to the excursions is Silversea is going to give you an onboard credit of $400 per person on the 7-day to allow you to choose which excursions you want.
From Silversea.
Whereas Regent just says all excursions are included. It brings to mind a question, Larry. Quick pause, folks. Don't worry. I'm not long-winded. I just want to share our brand new channel memberships. For just $1.99 and up a month, you'll get fun perks like badges, early video access, travel webinars, and even travel opportunities with some of our experts. It's a great way to be part of our travel community while getting a little extra along the way. Just hit the join button below for more details. And now, back to our show. And I'd wondered about it when we've been on Silversea. With the old system with Silversea, where they included every excursion, did you find that people actually booked all of their excursions right away and then sat on them? So if somebody wasn't quick getting in there, those excursions were sold out. And perhaps by the time it got down to the sailing, well, some people got on board saying, you know what, it was included, but I'm not really going to go on that excursion. And they go empty.
Yeah, that was a big problem. And I think this was a good move on Silversea's part to basically drop the excursions. Yeah. But, that's kind of a plus, because the last time we were on a Regent Seven Seas, we were shut out because we booked last minute.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. So every day when we got to the port of call and they're left for the excursions, I'd go down, and we got on every single excursion we wanted because people didn't show up because it's free or included. I'm sorry. And so it was amazing. And this was a Baltic cruise. It was very port intensive. I think there were 7 ports of call. We didn't have any excursions. We went on an excursion on every port of call just by going down there, because people don't show up. They decide they're going to sleep in or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if that happens on every cruise, but it's an interesting human factor to this whole thing.
No, it sure is.
So I guess bottom line, when we're talking about excursions, in Alaska, the excursions, there's so much to do. And I mean, and you're going to be able to see a lot of Alaska regardless of the excursion you do. But if you're really interested in excursions and you really want to do a lot of things, then I think the tipping point goes over to Regent Seven Seas, whereas if excursions aren't that important to you, it may go over to Silversea.
Good point. So by looking at these numbers, that Regent is slightly more money. Do you think the larger suite and the increase in balcony size, plus all the included excursions, is a better value than Silversea? Or
I think that's going to have to be a decision. The differential we're looking at is about $1,800 for the 7-day cruise. Again, this is based upon 2025 pricing. So
no, exactly.
I guess I was hoping to see some really big differences. So I said, definitely we want to go this way or this way. But I think what we're going to have to do is just evaluate each person's likes and dislikes and what's important to them to compare these two cruise lines. Again, another reason that you really want to use a travel advisor, because if you call Regent Seven Seas, they're going to tell you they're the best. And if you call Silversea, and you can't really compare those two. But when you have a travel advisor who's loaded with this knowledge, then you're going to be able to make a more intelligent decision between the two cruise lines. And that's, I guess, the biggest takeaway of trying to compare these two cruise lines.
And it makes all the difference. If you're talking to somebody that has been on both lines and knows how they work, knows the ships, then they're going to do a much better job of positioning you on the particular cruise line that's going to give them the best experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can throw in all the other things about the pre-cruise hotels, the post-cruise transfers, and pretty much nobody's including air to Alaska this year. So all of that's going to be important we'll be there to help you with booking the air.
So Larry, if someone come to you and said, Larry, I just want the most luxurious, comfortable stateroom experience. I don't care what the brand name is or on the funnel. What do you think you'd tell them?
I usually will go with Silversea, and but that's again my personal choice.
Right.
Silversea is more European, elegant. Regent Seven Seas is more modern, and I love them both, but it's just more modern. I guess there are little things like being able to do the train with Silversea from Seward to Anchorage. The caviar anytime, anywhere, that appeals to me, but not everybody likes caviar, so that's not a big deal. So again, that's just my personal choice. It gets our conversation started when we do that.
So Larry, everything I've seen about these ships, I've sailed on Silversea. I haven't had the occasion to be on Regent other than to tour the ships when they've been in our harbor here. But one thing that's always important to viewers and listeners of RTE-Travel Talk is, and I always have to ask, is the culinary. What kind of a culinary experience are you going to find on Silversea versus Regent? Or is there a difference?
There is again a few slight differences. Start off what they have in common. They both have Silversea has 9 dining options. Regent has 8. Both have spectacular main dining rooms. I've eaten in both of them. They are really, really good. They both, interestingly enough, have a specialty restaurant that features Asian food. Actually, Silversea has 2. One is Japanese and one is Asian. They both have Italian. And one big difference, Silversea has a restaurant called La Dame, a specialty restaurant that does have a service charge of $60 per person. But boy, it's one of the best French meals I think I've ever had. And their Kaseki Japanese restaurant for dinner features a $40 service charge, but Regent Seven Seas does not charge for any of their specialty restaurants. But there's plenty of other specialty restaurants on Silversea that don't have a service charge. So both dining experiences, I think you're going to be very, very happy with, regardless of the cruise line you choose.
So really what it comes right down to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you're looking for something that's totally all-inclusive, with you don't have to think about pulling your wallet out of your pocket, Regent Seven Seas is probably going to fit that bill a little bit more than Silversea now. Silversea,
Exactly.
great experience, but you have to think about what excursions I'm going to take and how am I going to use my onboard credit.
Right.
Well, Larry, this has been fantastic information. Is there anything else you might like to add before we wrap up for today?
No, if anybody's interested, and we book all over the nation, give us a call at 321-242-1331 or send us an email or respond to the webpage here, and we'll get right back to you. We're very good on follow-up.
Perfect. I'll leave that contact information in the description for those folks that might like to reach out. But as always, Larry, since I like to live vicariously through the travels of all the wonderful people I get to interview on this channel, I have to know where you and Linda are off to next. What's next on your travel to-do list?
We're really we're going to Hawaii for Christmas to see our grandchildren, and then we're doing a 7-day celebrity cruise from here in Port Canaveral in the end of January, an annual fundraiser that we do for the Military Officers Association. So we'll be taking 78 of our closest friends with us on a cruise.
Super. That's the MOAC cruise, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to have you back to regale us with your adventures on Celebrity. How does that sound?
That sounds great, Ken. Thank you.
All right, my friend. With that, I'm just going to wish you safe and happy travels on all your future cruises and adventures. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see you on the Lido deck of a Regent Seven Seas ship sometime soon in the future.
Let's plan on it.
All right, take care.
Okay, Ken. Thank you.
Bye. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Larry Jackson of Cruise Holidays of Viera. If you'd like to reach Larry, I will leave his contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can simply drop a comment. We always respond, or send us an email to questions@realtravelexperts.com. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, share, and the ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps other folks just like you to find our content. And if you're really enjoying the content and want to show a little extra love, we hope you'll consider becoming a channel member. It really helps us to keep on delivering the travel advice, expert interviews, and destination reviews you know and love. So until next time, folks, happy travels.